We are highly honored to have with us today Mrs. Ladun Awobokun, the Chief Content Officer of FilmOne. Let me welcome her warmly. She was ever so gracious to quickly accept when we accepted her, in spite of the fact that we actually even moved this forward various times. She was willing to work with us in this. So let me welcome you. Ladun, you're most welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Great.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Great. So how this will work, there'll be opportunities to ask questions. So if you please put your questions in the chat box as we go along, and we will take them from there. So let's set the ball rolling. Once again, Ladun, you're most welcome. Let's, first of all, let me read a bit of your profile. That Ladun Awobokun is a seasoned content strategist with 14 years combined experience in formulating content licensing models, film programming, content production, sales and acquisition, market research, and investment analysis. She currently drives the content strategy, production, and distribution efforts at FilmOne Ltd as the Chief Content Officer. Before her appointment as the Chief Content Officer, Ladun was the General Manager of FilmOne Entertainment, a role in which she played a crucial role in acquiring exclusive distribution rights for major Hollywood studios like Walt Disney and Sony Pictures in Anglophone West Africa, establishing FilmOne as the industry leader with the largest market share in the area. 90% of the highest grossing Nollywood films, including Ajosekbo, King of Thieves, and the groundbreaking A Tribe Called Judah, the first Nigerian film to earn more than 1 billion naira at the box office, were distributed by FilmOne under Ladun's leadership. Before her promotion to General Manager, Ladun was the head of distribution, FilmOne Entertainment. Ladun leads the production team at FilmOne Studios, currently the largest co-producing house in Nigeria, guiding both the content development and physical production teams of the business, with 6 titles already co-produced in this calendar year and counting. She has also been involved in fostering standardization and transparency in West Africa's film industry, evidenced by her contribution in onboarding the Comscore platform in the West Africa region. More recently, she was the editor-in-chief of the 2022 and 2023 editions of the Nigerian Box Office Yearbook, the official handbook for the box office in Nigeria. That's a pretty weighty profile. You have been very busy indeed. So, so once again, Ladun, you're most welcome. And let me say first off, hearty congratulations for the yearbook. It's, for those of us involved in research, it's a very valuable document that truly aids us in terms of having a good view of what's going on in the industry, because this has been a key challenge, has been and remains a key challenge for our industry in really getting data, you know, having data that is verifiable, that people can work with. So hearty congratulations for driving that. But let's set the ball rolling. To find out a little bit more about you, you hold a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting from Babcock University and a Master of Science degree in Information Systems and Business Analysis from Aston University. Yet, here you are working in the film industry. So how did all of that come about? What is a bit more of your background from which we can really understand a bit more where you are today?
Sure. First, thank you very much for having me. Good morning, everyone, and happy to be here on a Saturday morning. My background is in accounting fully, and you know, it's funny when I was in like secondary school, you do these aptitude tests, and I think it's in JS 3, and then they tell you you're supposed to be in science class and you're supposed to be in arts or whatever it is, and I did the test and it said that I should do the arts. But you know, when I was younger, I'm not that old, but when I was younger, it wasn't you know, it wasn't the smart people that did arts. It was the smart people did sciences. So I interpreted that as you guys are saying I'm not smart, so I'm not listening to it. And we weren't forced to do it, it was an advice. So I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm going to do science. I'm doing science. So I went ahead and I did sciences all the way to like SSC, ETC. And then I graduated and I realized that I actually don't have any future ambition in this thing. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a pharmacist. I just did it. I don't want to be an engineer. I just did it because I am trying to prove that I'm smart. So I was now in a whole, what do you do? I didn't have an ambition, nothing. Because nothing made sense in that whole sciences thing, nothing. But then I had done economics as one of my, the 5 courses that
Yeah.
you would do. And it was now like, oh, okay, maybe you can do economics or accounting. And I was like, which one has the like less math in it? And everyone says economics has more math. So this is really what happened, like the entire thought process. Okay, economics has more math than accounting. Accounting is more numeracy and just laws. And I'm like, okay, I'll do accounting. That is how I got into accounting. It was not, I didn't have passion for it. It was just something that it was just a thing that I did. And I get into accounting, I'm doing it, it's all right, it's fine. And then I leave school and I'm like, yeah, I do know that I want to do this, but it's what you do. So I go ahead, I do ACCA, chartered accountant, and I'm like, oh yeah, this looks good. And then I work in a bank for 5 years. And I think
Wow.
after the first 2 years, yeah, I think after the first 2 years, I'm like, okay, I think when you're just like, I just wasn't getting any fulfillment. And I was like, okay, but I am good at this. And it's a situation where a lot of people find themselves as professionals where you're good at something, but you don't really enjoy it. And
Yeah.
you can't really achieve your full potential because
Yes.
we're versatile people. You can be good at multiple things, but are you enjoying it? When you're enjoying something and you're fully immersed in it, then you can scale, you can be creative in how you
Exactly.
apply yourself in things. And I just got to a place where I had changed. I was lucky to be at the head office. So I was already doing financial market research, which obviously came to bear in what I'm doing right now. I was doing market risk analysis, analyzing like the bank's portfolio. All of that was good. But then after like 6 months to a year, for me, it just got like it was the same thing. There was no challenge. I know when the NSC, like Nigeria Stock Exchange, does something, there's a knee-jerk reaction. I already know what's going to happen to our portfolio. So it was just there was just nothing interesting going on. Long story short, I'm having drinks with a friend, with my then boyfriend at the time, and she's like, "Oh, there's this opportunity in this company. They want you to. There's this company that owns cinemas, but they want to do something on like film and you distribute films to cinemas." And I'm like, okay, sounds easy. I just need a break. So my foray into film was me taking a break off. And they were like, I was like, are you going to match what I'm earning in the bank? And they were like, yeah, they'll match it. I'm like, okay, cool. So I don't get a pay cut and I get to try something different and I am on a break. So I take the role, and I remember in the bank, everyone was like, "You're crazy. You're a chartered accountant. You're going to work for a cinema that sells popcorn. Like you are going from that to popcorn and drinks, and like this isn't even a career." And I'm like, I don't care what people are saying. At that point, I needed a break. And then I got into film, and it's the hardest job I've ever had. 100% the hardest job. And I always just say, when I was thinking, I was like, if I knew that it was going to be so hard, maybe I would have tried something different, or maybe this is how God wanted it to be. But it started out as a break, and now 7 years later, I've been doing this. It's the hardest job, but also the most fulfilling. And it's just giving me new like understanding and just what my purpose is in life. So yeah, that is the truth.
Fantastic. When you said that thing about no future ambition, I remember in school back then, that was one of the worst
Mhm.
things you could say, NFA.
Yes, NFA.
No
It
future
really was, but
ambition.
it's the truth. I was like, I've done this science because I'm trying to prove like I'm smart. I've got this. Meanwhile, nothing. I didn't know. I didn't have. I nothing interested me. Nothing. So yeah,
But then
all those things.
that view, the experience you had that people look at the arts and say these are the most unserious people in the world, or
Mm-hmm.
you're leaving the
Mm-hmm.
bank and they say you're crazy, you're going to work in this
Mm-hmm.
space.
Mm-hmm.
How does that play out today? We have seen some changes, yes, but this reality that people look at the creative industries, they look at the whole space of filmmaking, and they do not see that this is serious business. But you are saying now that it's the hardest job you've ever done.
100%.
How does that affect you? For instance, because I know that it's been a challenge for many filmmakers, the whole aspect of getting the banks even to invest in what they're doing, getting that, all of these kinds of things. Do you also experience that at the level at which you play, that you find it difficult to break through because there's this perspective that this is not serious? Have you faced that in the role you hold?
In the past, yes. So I would say I started doing from 2017. I would say in the first 3 years, yes. But more recently, it's changed. People are paying attention. Cash is king, and there's no investor that doesn't want a return on investment that makes sense. When you start to see investments that are giving you higher than your secured treasury bills or your government bonds, irrespective of what industry you are in, you will pay attention. You're going to say, so this person invested 100 million in this film. When the film went to cinema, it made 200 million. Okay, it hasn't made its money. But then when it went on one of the streamers, it made 300,000. If you do the math, you're thinking, and in a period of 18 months, that piques attention. That piques like, okay, what's going on here? There's something here, and people start to ask questions. So over the past 2 years, more often I've had more interest from private equity funds, banks. The BOI is even having a resurgence of what they had the Nollywood Fund or Nolly
Yes,
Fund of
yes.
2016. They're having conversations around coming back in. You have a Frexim Bank who's also funding. You have Providus Bank. My point is when people are paying attention to stuff, when organizations or you have Sterling Bank that's also doing it as well. So when you have people like that are interested in it, you know that there's something going on there. But what has made this happen is how popular it's been. Now, people will say that the most popular and the most successful export from Nigeria right now is the arts, because now all of us are gone and done with oil and everything. Plus, in first world countries, if we can call them that, everyone is going to clean energy now, right? So it's not as interesting. Not that it's still making money, but it's just not as
Yes.
interesting as before. What people are talking about is music, it's fashion, it is film. So when things are popular like that, and you're seeing even Nigerian music artists that are not even playing in Nigeria anymore because the money that they make, quite frankly, Nigerians cannot afford the ticket prices that they would like. So now you have Nigerian artists who have not had a show in Nigeria for years. I don't remember the last time Burna Boy, for instance, performed in Nigeria. He's still making bank. So when you think about how our exports are now there, we're not having that much pushback. What we're not talking about is what interest are you charging? Are you coming in as debt or as equity? We're not having to convince anybody again, as long as you make a good business case for what your product is, what your distribution channel is, why you think people will be interested in it. And that is why I always sort of focus on, you need to understand the business of film, because that is
Yes.
really is the key to scale, you know. Yeah.
In spite of the way you presented it, your foray into the industry, I think that I dare say that the stops you made along the way are proving extremely valuable today. All the finance
Agree.
experience, the experience of the banks, and so on. What kind of advice would you give to someone who is trying to break into the industry? Because you see that I think that this is something that is key for us today. We talk about wanting to grow the creative industries, but at the same time, we perhaps are not paying as much attention as we should to the preparation of the people who will enter into the space. We You do have institutions that offer some training in aspects of the creative industries. But then, do we really have any a university or institution that offers what you would say is a creative industries course, for instance? So, if you were going to advise someone entering into this space, from your perspective, what would you say such a person should put in place in terms of the kind of training to obtain? Is it necessary that we all get something in finance, for instance, as a way of understanding the business? Or we would say elements of critical thinking, so on and so forth. What kinds of things have you found very useful, especially not just in yourself, but people you work with, like you would say, I wish we had more of this?
And I'll answer this question just sort of focus on my experience with creatives generally, people that, and we're all creatives to be fair, but people that they're foreign into this industry is mainly, I have a story, or I am this, I'm a creative, how you would identify. And it is especially Nigerian, or should I say African creatives, no one likes collaboration. A lot of the things that I have learned, aside my finance background, has been because I have worked with people. And I would say the whole FilmOne's journey, it would be because we have worked with so many different people. I'm able to take a back seat on some of the productions and say, okay, so how did you do that? You pitched to this, because if I'm collaborating with you, you can't hide. So from your pitch process, I'm able to say, this is how it is done. From your sourcing of funds, I'm able to say, oh, this is how you did it. This is how you did it correctly. This is how you didn't do it correctly. From your sponsorship, how you're able to, from sponsorship, how are you able to have in the sponsorship element and have that affect your budget, etc. From even casting or development, we didn't just start, like for instance, FilmOne has been co-producing with people since 2016. That's doing productions with people 2016. We didn't do a FilmOne exclusive co-production till 2022. Like just us. We never did. It never happened. It was always with people. And all those years, what we're doing is it's just drawing. It is, how do you pitch? What is the best way? Who do you pitch to? How do you source those funds? How do you cast? What are the stories that are important to tell? Now, it doesn't mean that we won't make mistakes. We will continue, because Nollywood is still growing. We're going to be so huge. And I feel so blessed to be in it at this stage, because I feel like when it now eventually takes a hold, I'll be there. I was there at the beginning, or some people will say it's not the beginning, but in my head, this is the beginning, child. It's a renaissance. But I would say collaboration. A lot of the things that a lot of people are so like, spoken to some creatives and I'm like, this story is so important to me, and they don't want to share or they don't want to let go. There's a lot, but then there's just so much you don't know that you can learn from somebody that has been doing this for a long time.
Right.
What this has done is that you will then go ahead and you make so many mistakes and then end up maybe producing something that nobody watches or never gets seen. Meanwhile, it was such a beautiful story, but it wasn't positioned properly. You had to make some savings on set that perhaps maybe if you had collaborated, you wouldn't have had to make. A lot of it lies between people not wanting to work together. And every time I say that, they'll say, oh, but when we sent you an email, you didn't respond. But guess what? Actually, you should just say, okay, since you're not responding, I'm going to find there are 5 of us that will like this thing. And all of us are, you people don't rate us in quotes. We will come together and do this and then show you that you should have collaborated with us. It doesn't have to be with a big person. It's just everybody standing, instead of saying, person A is doing this film, person B, me, I'm different. That person doesn't know what they're doing. Person C, no, you are not smart enough. You don't get my raise, or how do these people say that? You don't get that. Everyone needs to come together. Like find 3, 4 people, collaborate. You'll be surprised. There's this film that, unfortunately, I can't say the name, but a few young people came together and put together such a show. Like I haven't even seen the film at all. I just was seeing when they were on set and how they were, how it was positioned, how they made it feel as if you were not watching this or if you were not on this project, it's something. I was the one that sent the girl a DM to say, hi, I would like to see a screen now when you guys are ready. I still haven't seen it. In fact, I sent her a reminder last week to say, hi, just checking on you. If you guys already have a screener, I'm happy to see it, to see whether it's something that we can jump on, etc. Why? How did they do it? They came together. It was 4 of them. They came together, and they're filmmakers. I think one is a DOP, one is a writer. They're not the most popular names, but they came together and have created something that has gotten people's attention. And all of us are now like, okay, who will get rights to this film? Who will get etc. because of how it was positioned. So I think that people need to hone into just working with each other more and don't hold it. IPs, people say my IP is just a story, and there's so many, and also most of these stories they all look alike, whether or not you were the one that wrote it or etc. So collaborate, that would be the number one advice I would give people: collaborate. And in those collaborations, you can, for instance, if you collaborate with FilmOne on a film, for instance, I cannot hide the people that I'm sourcing my funds for, sourcing my films for. So if I'm sourcing I'm saying I'm reaching out to Providus Bank, I just mentioned, and to say this. In your next film, if you don't want me on it, you already know that I went to Providus Bank. So that's something that you've held onto. You know the way I did it, because if there's a presentation, I'm not going to have a presentation without you. You reference the presentation and use it to do your next one. So those sort of collaborations is how you can get gains, quick gains, how you can get knowledge on the industry. Who should you speak to? How should you get to places? How you should approach yourself? What you should be known for? How to get that niche? It is mainly in collaboration. It sleeps there in collaboration.
I fully agree with you. It's something that perhaps we do not talk enough about, but it tends to be, I would say, one of the bigger problems that we have. We are all working in silos.
Yeah.
Each person wants to be a mini god in his own little area, rather than really coming together. And in the long run, what you have is a fragmented industry, a fragmented space. Whereas coming together, we really can, in terms of driving policy change, in terms of driving growth, we will do a whole lot more. So it's a good point to note. Now, let's come back to you for a minute. You were appointed Chief Content Officer of FilmOne in July this year. If I am not mistaken, this is a new title in FilmOne. Why this change? And is it an indication of a change in direction?
Yes, thanks for that. I was actually appointed in March. It was announced in July.
Oh, March, sorry.
Yeah, no, but it was announced in July, so which is fine.
Okay.
But yes, it's a new focus, because we've just, from our research and just our position in the industry, we've seen that content is going to drive everything. And the sort of content you create, where you put it, how it is positioned, is going to drive everything. So it was important for us to essentially come up with a role, I guess, and a new set of deliverables for a content-driven business. And this doesn't only affect us, our distribution and production, and Film House Group also has cinemas, so it's also content that is created for the cinemas as well. Right now, you don't need like an ARRI to shoot any content. You don't need a fancy camera to shoot content. Content is made on the go with the TikToks of this world, etc. And it's just finding a way to position it and making sure that everything it has the intent that we want it to have, but it also has the commercial success, which obviously keeps us driving. People don't like to talk about commercials, as it's like one of those we don't discuss. But how does your business become a going concern if you don't consider the commercials in every single step that you take? So it's just making sure that it is clear that content is our driving force for the next few years. It is a focus. How we do it, finding different ways to sort of distribute. We have a distribution problem generally in the industry. So focusing on that and putting the necessary, whether it's human skill, like myself and my team, and even technical skills, to make sure that we can broaden the horizon on where our content is seen and how it is viewed and what it's even paid, or the commercials, what we get paid for it. That focus was important, and we do see it as the next frontier for our business and for Nollywood generally. So that's why it was done that way.
So what does a chief content officer do?
A chief content officer essentially drives. Good question. A chief content officer. I'm not the first chief content officer in the world. Like,
of course,
like yeah. Netflix has a chief content officer. Tubi has a chief content officer. But essentially drives the content strategy. It makes the decision on what sort of content goes out, what sort of content is greenlit for production, what sort of content is we're invested in. There are many things that we do that we are not on sets for. We just invest in it and say, okay, this is what it needs to do. Also decides what sort of platform. So do we do a podcast? If we do a podcast, what sort of things do we talk about on a podcast? So it's not only content like feature films and series, it's also what do we create for the brand. Do we do a podcast, as I said? Do we get a radio station? Do we need to do we make the investment in doing something else in media and doing like a radio station? Do we think that the group would benefit from it, or our movies that are the greatest investments would benefit from it? So for the most part, chief content officer role is strategic. It's really making those big decisions on what we do, and then now working with the team and implementing it and making sure that it's aligned with the company's objectives.
What drives you in that? I mean, sorry, to put that better, what guides you in those kinds of decisions in deciding, are we going to do a podcast? Are we going to do a radio station? Are we going to put out this kind of content or this other one? What is your guide in this regard?
We have overall objectives that we want to achieve as a company. A big one for this year is to drive admissions in the cinemas up, because from COVID, so COVID happened in 2020, right? The whole of 2020 was shut. We had the highest overall admissions into cinemas in 2019. In 2020, of course, it came down. Cinemas were shut for 7 months. And in 2021, whilst you would say it went up because 2020 was shut, it's still a far cry from what it was in 2019. Now, from 2021, 2022, and 2023, there has been a decline in admissions. In 2024, which was when our overall objectives was obviously set up, our objective was, how do we get the admissions to be flat, which is 2023 should align with 2024 should align with the admissions of 2023. So everything that I am working on right now, it is for that overall objectives, to make sure that admissions are at least flat. Now, because of our position, as I'm doing it, I'm not doing it for just FilmOne or Film House. It is for the entire industry, because we distribute the most films, we have the most number of cinemas, which means I now have because I'm a distributor at my very core. I'm also working with other cinemas. How can I help those numbers? I'm working with Nova Cinemas, just opened in Shongotedu. I'm like, okay, you guys, let's do skaters. Everything that we do, every content that we create, sometimes they'll send me, oh, this is what we want to put online on our website. I'm like, oh no, we changed this. Let's change this and use this specific wordings. Today, for instance, oh, sorry about that. Today, for instance, is a cinema day. In all cinemas, it's going to be 1,000 naira for tickets as well. That was something that was also important to be done. Why? Because again, we're looking at admissions. We're saying, okay, if people are saying that these 5,000 naira tickets, 6,000 naira tickets are too expensive, let's create a day where, or not create, it's done internationally, but let's agree to do a day where cinema tickets are 1,000 naira across all cinemas, and then watch the numbers. And we've had a lot of support from even governmental agencies that are like, oh, we want to pay for XYZ people to come. So is this sort of thing, everything that we do, the sort of films that we give, is the reason why I'm sure everybody is seeing an increase in the number of epics. People want to watch epics. Okay, no problem. We'll bring it to cinema. Come and watch it there. People want to watch romance. People want to see action. People want to see drama now. Okay, we'll do more drama films. We'll position it in the densely populated areas such that people can watch it, because our overall objective is to make sure that this year admissions are flat, and fingers crossed,
Okay, just to piggyback on that, because looking at today's reality, that, well, we know what's going on. The present economic climate means that for many people, there is less disposable income. And the whole business of opportunity cost, people are going to be a bit more careful about the expenditure. How does that impact on what you're trying to do now in terms of growing admissions? Do you really see that it's inching up? Are you noticing the impact of some of what you're trying to do in terms of admissions?
Yes, we are. At the end of the day, things are tough, but when things are tough, people need to escape. Things are tough. I was talking to one of my friends that actually they sell alcohol, right? They sell beer. and they're a big company that it's a family business and they've done this over the years. And they've said that when it rains is when they have the smallest, they have the what's it called? The least people buy beer when it rains. But when it's not rainy season, and of course when salaries are out or at the end of the month, there's an uptick in the amount of beer that is sold. Why? Whether you're happy, if you're a beer drinker, when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're frustrated, when you've won something, you will go get a bottle of beer to celebrate that feeling.
Mm.
It's almost, it's what we're trying to do with the cinemas as well, or with admissions and how we've seen it. Some people, when they're frustrated, they want to escape and just be in a room where it is dark, nobody's talking to me. I just want to watch a film that makes me, for the next 2 hours, forget that this is stressful. I'm going to go watch a film. So people, when they're happy, they go watch a film. Dates, especially because the experiences in cinema now, people are giving like proper, it's not just popcorn and drinks. There's asu in the cinema, there's jollof rice, there's chicken wings. So your dates now are, you will have a full-on date where you are having dinner and watching a film and you guys are laughing, etc. That is also happening. We've seen that even traffic, for cinemas that are in the areas where there are offices, some people will wait out traffic by watching a film. So it is just trying to tie in those things and allowing, so we will have people on the road that are actually saying, oh, you could go watch this. This year, like from 2022 to 2023, the admissions drop was maybe about 16%. From 2022 to 2023, it dropped. It was 4% drop. So we can see that there's a trajectory where the drop is getting smaller. We just want to make it, don't want to drop again. We're done with drop. So we're saying that, look, there's a restaurant that sells food, for instance, 10,000 naira a plate for jollof rice. And we're saying, well, if you come and watch the film at the cinema, you can't get a plate of food for 5,000 naira. It now becomes, okay, where do you go to? If I can get food cheaper here and just add a small amount to get tickets, is that better for us? And it's just sending that message. So my job is to make sure, how do we communicate to people that this is a good alternative? We are seeing wins. As at July, that's July 2023 to July 2024. When you compare it, it was maybe a 1% drop in admissions. So we're hoping that, and the tail end of the year, Q4 is always the strongest year. It's always the strongest of every year. December last year was a 1 billion month. 1 billion month, just a month. We think that this year would be 2 billion because of the sheer amount of films and the size of the films that is happening. And plus December is earlier this year. The weekends are earlier. It starts like very early. So it's those sort of things that are helping us to say, okay, the content is good. Sorry, it's funny. The content is good. The opportunities are there, and it's important for us to use those things that we can use to our advantage to make sure that the story is told and we get our mission and our objectives. Sorry, I saw a comment that made me laugh. That's what I was saying. So
now that you mentioned comment, let's go to the chat box. There's a question here. Actually, there are a couple of questions. There's one first from Folakemi, who is asking, how do we get access to the present and past industry reports / catalogs produced by Filmhouse?
That's a very good question. There's a link. I will have to figure out what that link is, but usually it's on the, if you search the yearbook, Nigerian Box Office Yearbook, you should get it. But then there's a link that I think it's on my Instagram. I will go check. If not, I will update it there. But there's a link that we usually have a link that has access to all of them on that link. So if it is not there, I will update it right after this. But I usually just put it on like my Instagram what you call that thing, handle, where there's a link to that website.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Then Mosura has latched onto your call for collaboration and is inviting people to collaborate with him. So please, members of the audience, take a look at the link of Mosura there. And then there's a comment or question actually from Anyolika, who's asking, thanks, Ladun. One of the reasons why people don't collaborate in the film industry, as you put it, is because of a lack of knowledge of how it works, especially the kind of paperwork / contract that should precede it. and what people should look out for in those contracts. Would you agree, or are there other key reasons why collaborations may not be happening?
No, I don't agree. Um, And again, giving the example of working with each other, I remember before or even when I was in the bank and I would do like, you know, how everyone has a side hustle and you do different things that are separate from what you're doing at work. I would be sent a contract for my consulting work. And I had a friend. If like, I don't know that is like all of us, there's a lot of educated people generally in Nigeria. I know that everyone speaks about unemployment, but at a stage there's a lot of educated people. You have a friend that has a friend that understands IP law or understands the contract. So I feel like when I see like this paperwork and culture things an excuse. If you are interested in that, you don't understand the paperwork, you get your friend in. Can you help me with this contract? I did it and I didn't pay a dime. And it's not that I didn't go to like I went to Babcock. Yes, it's do you understand? There's people that went to Unilag, there's people that went to my point is you have a friend that can read this thing for you and say, bros, I will buy you lunch. Help me read this thing. Don't let them use my head. So I don't agree that that is the reason why. And if your growth is being stunted because you don't understand the paperwork thing, then it will be stunted in any career that you pick. Because irrespective of what you do, there would be contracts that you would need to sign that would maybe have a bond or something that if you don't have somebody that reads it, you will sign your life away. So I don't think that that's a reason why people are not collaborating now. I don't think so. I hope I answered the
Can
question.
we, yes, can we add to that perhaps that reluctant to bring in others because perhaps you think my idea will be stolen and so on and so even though I need help, I think no, I can do it myself.
Yes.
That sometimes is part of the challenge. Okay, then we have another question here from
That's the one that made
Tony.
me laugh.
Really?
Yes, it popped
As
up when I was talking. I was like,
CCO,
oh God.
okay, as CCO, you're a cultural gatekeeper because you control what we consume. Do you work with a team or alone? As a student, what skills or background would I need to work under your unit or enter that career path?
Okay. No, I'm not a cultural gatekeeper. That was when I thought I was like, oof, certainly not a cultural gatekeeper. We do not control what anyone consumes. And why I'm so confident that we don't is because this reason why I really love the advent of YouTube, where you don't need to have a name. Everyone is just sort of uploading stuff. You don't need any permission from anybody. People are uploading a lot of videos, a lot of films are giving their narrative and just sort of the stories that they want to tell. I wanted to just talk on one more point on this gatekeeping thing because it has come up like a number of times. We work with quite a number of filmmakers, and I only need to go through. I would say pick a year, and I would tell you the number of new filmmakers that we worked with that year. Everything really is about positioning, and at the end of the day, we're in showbiz, right? And think about it that when anyone has a pitch, there are probably 20 more people that have sent a pitch that week. You need to figure out a way for yours to stand out. I even have to do it in my own because at the end of the day, I distribute, for instance, a lot of films. We co-produce a number, like we've already done 6 this year, as I said. We're going to do 2 more before the end of the year. So I also have I also have to draw my pitches in a way that it gets the attention of, for instance, if I'm going to streamer, there's a strategy that I use in terms of making my content stand out. I also have to do that deep dive. How do I make it sound? What do I use as a cover page? How do I use AI tools? Oh my God, AI has made everything so much more easier. How do I stand out? The typography? Now I'm having to pay extra typography. Why? Because I need to stand out in my content because now everybody's shooting content now. So it's now, how do I make sure that when these guys that I want them to buy content, how does it stand out? That is it. It is not about gatekeeping. If something stands out and folks can see that there's an intent here, nobody cares who your daddy is or how many, like no one cares. Folks just want to do things that they feel like will have impact and will have commercial success. And also, I want to be proud that my name is on it. So if I want to be proud, I'm going to take that extra care to say, okay, this is why I am greenlighting this, or this is why I want to work with this person, etc. So it's not gatekeeping. It's just how is that content being positioned? Is it just set as a random email? Like, for instance, I don't like WeTransfers because I have to download it and it's just a lot. So usually when I see WeTransfer, I just pay in it and I'm like, okay, I'll get to that later. But then, so it's stuff like that that you need to think about. Like, okay, this person is probably getting a lot of pitches. How do I stand out? Do I make it a short 3-pager and then say, I'll send you more if this piques your interest? What colors do I use?
Right.
And all of these things is literally just searching online. What colors stand out? What typographies are the most popular? Like I said, AI tools. I have a list of AI tools that I found that have made my pitches much better. And it's just like, I just can't share some of the pitches, but there's some of the pitches that I'm just like, oh God, I've just been suffering before. I've been using Canva, But my point is AI tools have made it so much easier. That thing just seems like it's such a, anyway, research. Do you work as a team or alone? Oh, of course not. I have like we work together. We are FilmOne production, maybe we're about 10. And then we obviously, a lot of things are contracted out because production, a lot of things are contracted out. FilmOne distribution, even more, maybe about 15 people. Certainly don't work. As a student, what skills or background would I need to work in your new career path? None, except like an education. We don't look at, especially if you're coming in as an intern, don't worry, you can study biochemistry. I mean, look at me, I studied accounting. And it's just right now that people really have like film courses and people have theater arts courses. So it's more, you have an education and there's the interest. So it's more of the interest. What is the interest? What do you think that you can bring to the table, etc. We have a lot of interns right now. I think we have 4 different interns working with us right now. So yeah, I think that answers that question.
Okay, thank you. There's another comment from Anulika, and she says, drive admissions in the cinema is up. That seems like a hard sell for many reasons, not least, and perhaps primarily, because of the streaming platforms. In March, I paid 8,500 Naira to watch FRK at the IMAX, but that's my Netflix subscription for 3 months. How do you hope to balance that? I'm a university teacher. Not a critical question. I'm on your side because I research cinema-going cultures.
Yeah. Thanks for that. You know that funny, where was I? I can't remember. But you know that generally Nigeria still has the lowest ticket prices everywhere. Like everywhere. Let's say it was in South Africa, where we found out that their ticket prices were actually 15,000 naira. And we're just sort of thinking, can you imagine making the basic prices 15,000 naira? The reason why it's 858, or like you watch 85, does that include popcorn and drinks? So that seems a bit high, but anyway, I don't know. It seems a bit high, but then it's fine. Cinema around the world is not cheap. Period. It's not one of those things. It's not a cheap thing. It is something that is, you come because of the experience. It's the reason why when we talk to cinemas, including film house cinemas, we always say, what can we do to make the experience worth this 8.5, or as you said, or 10,000, or so people that are selling the tickets 10,000, depending on the film, because it's dynamic, right? It is the experience that people are coming to watch, and we're hoping that you get that experience. FRK that you said is actually the highest grossing biopic in cinema. It did 150 million naira. No other biopic has done that much. And it surprised us because it's one of those things where, people will say, oh, documentaries don't work in cinemas, biopic don't work in cinemas, horror doesn't work in cinema. We're happy to see that there was something that appealed to people with FRK, and getting you, for instance, to watch that, that I feel like that was a win, especially knowing fully well that is your Netflix subscription. What Netflix offers, but then your Netflix, Netflix subscription has even gone up right now. So I don't think it's still 8.5 for 3 months anymore, because even they have gotten the message that it's not like that again. I know that it's expensive, it is hard, but I know that many cinemas are coming up with loyalty clubs now, where you pay certain amounts a month and you can watch films for the entire month. I think that is the way they're appealing to people to say, okay, we know that it's a tad expensive, knowing fully well that our disposable income in the country is what it is, eh? So we're considering that. the offerings are different. The experience you get in a cinema, especially if you watch like in the IMAX screen, you can't get it at home, no matter how many speakers you have at like surround systems you have at the top, or you put off the lights in your room with blankets. It's not the same. So we're trying to say, okay, this is the experience you are getting, and this is why you are paying a slight premium that is your Netflix subscription for it. Plus the films we would like to see newer, because then you can come to the cinema and watch new films every week. You can get that on Netflix, but it is not the same type of film. Most of the time it's reality TV, but different things appeal to different people. I think that there's a time for like streamer films or YouTube films and stuff like that, but I think that there's also space for for cinema films, and the appeal is completely different. Plus you can dress up and come with your friends and go out to the cinema, and at home you just be under your covers. It's not as cool, in my opinion.
Let me tap into something you just said about different things appealing to different people. In an interview of yours that I watched, you spoke a bit still on this idea of growing audiences. And you spoke concretely about giving increased focus to niche audiences. Can you tell us what your strategy is in this regard? I remember, for instance, the way a film like that of C.J. Obasi was greeted by many people. We went to the cinemas, and some people were actually quite antagonistic towards it. You know, it's different. It's a different film from what many people are used to. So how do you then go about catering to these niche audiences in a way? Because there are people who love the film. There are people who like different kinds of films, but who are not represented in the things that generally come to the cinemas. Now, how can you grow such audiences at the same time maintaining your profitability, making these smaller groups of people happy, growing them, and also saying, well, we have space for this as well? What's your strategy?
It's just not shutting the door to those stories. What would happen in the past is we would just say, oh, it doesn't work, so we just can't do it. But right now, what we're doing now is finding the best, or the crop, or the cream of the crop, right, in that regard, and saying, okay, let's back it up and give it some certain level of marketing and see what happens. Let's see whether people will come out and watch it, especially when I'm biased with stories that speak about Nigerianness and Nigerian stories. The other day we had a showcase 2 days ago, where we mentioned that the man died, which is a Wole Soyinka story, is coming to cinema. Yes. Now, that is typically not something that we would bring to cinema at all, because we just feel like, look, it's just going to be something like, we will just do this thing. We say it's coming at cinema, cinemas will be empty. But we have seen, like, even Nigerians and just general people are interested once they're told, or once they know that this is in cinema. There's an interest that it builds, and we want to see whether we can grow that interest even from the young people as well. So it is going from zero to giving a couple the chance, and also backing it. So which is that if there's no marketing funds, we will give some level of marketing to this film, just so that people know that it is coming out, and give the good show times, even if it is for 1 week, to say, let's see how it performs. It's creating that audience. It's why like, even when you think about FRK as well, giving it a fantastic date, and obviously Bolanle Peters did her thing with the marketing of that film and all of that. It's seeing how those sort of films perform that would now make me think, okay, are there any other stories that maybe people don't know about? Any other stories from like the Igbo kingdom that maybe people don't know about? Or any other stories about the World War that we can get behind, and not World War, Civil War, sorry, and get behind. Yes, Civil War, yeah, and get behind and see what it is that we can do. So we've gone from not doing it at all to saying, okay, let's see if there's a market here. We will shout about it. We'll tell you that it's coming out. You guys that like this thing, come out. Let's build it. Let's create talk around it. Let's see whether people will come and watch the film. People will have watch parties and have lunch talking about it, or come online on podcasts or whatever it is and talk about it. So that's the strategy right now. But we can't do all of it. If not, the cinemas will shut down. And that is always the issue with all these sort of things, because we all know what's happening in Nigeria with diesel, with projectors that cost around $20,000 to $30,000, because they don't make projectors in Nigeria now. And with paying the actual hands in the cinema, we do need to balance it in it well, but it's not really a balance, because it will always be more for the commercial films or films that we feel like people want to watch, and doing a bit of the ones that we know that we want to grow the audience. We can't really say that we have an industry if we don't create an atmosphere for everybody that likes setting films to watch. So people that like horror must know that there's horror in the cinema. People that like game films must know that you can come and watch those. People that like history must know that it's actually an opportunity to watch films that speak about the history. So just introducing it then in our slate, you would see that more recent, there's one or two that's popping up every other month where we are pushing, and we personally as FilmOne are backing those films to say, okay, let's get people out, talk about this. Let's give it the best showtimes to the extent that we can, and get people to actually watch and see that we're doing this. So that really is a strategy. I'm happy to take any suggestions on anyone that thinks that we should do it a different way.
I rather wonder how much the filmmakers themselves can do to support this strategy. A key challenge, which various persons have pointed out, and I think it's obvious to many of us, is that in the budgeting for films, there is usually insufficient funding for marketing, because marketing pretty often is a key part of the entire thing. So
100%.
Exactly. So you are driving this from the exhibition perspective. Now, how much those you want to give opportunities to, what's your experience and how much are they also putting in terms of provide? I know that funding is a problem generally, but are people also seeing as a serious aspect of the whole business, the aspect of marketing?
Not as serious as they should be taking it, in my completely honest opinion. You've made such a great point. And what we've seen over time is everyone now sort of says, oh, you're the distributor, why can't you market? And for me, that thing blows my mind, because it's your film. 80-90% of the revenue that comes from this film, like in entirety, is yours. But you want me, that I'm earning a fee from what you make, to take over the entire marketing of the film. There's nowhere in the world that it is done. And everyone that says international standards has not done their research. There's nowhere in the world that is done. Any distributor that takes over the whole marketing must have equity in your film. They have a share in your film. Anyone that tells you that it is done and they don't have a share in film is not exposed. There's nowhere that is done. So it is one of those things that some filmmakers with experience are now seeing that is important. Actually, a lot of filmmakers with the experience are seeing that is important, and they are putting that in. So whether it's with your sponsorship, where you say, oh, like there's some sponsorship deals, for instance, where you say, I'll give you a product placement in my film, and in exchange, if that brand has billboards, I will get my film on all your billboards.
Right.
That is a good deal, because what you have done you sold for maybe like 20 million in marketing. So that is a good deal, and it's not cash. So it's one of those things that people are being creative about, because until I can only do so much and say, okay, I like this film and I'm going to back it to some extent, and I will recoup my money back, especially if I'm not a co-producer. I will take my money back, because I have put money into marketing your film. I will have to recoup it. I'm not a co-producer in your film. But it is one of those things. I have said it before on a forum where, when you are planning your production budget, you should plan marketing with it. So if your production budget is 100 million naira, you should be saying that the entire budget is like 130 million, such that you have earmarked a 30 million or 35 million for marketing of your film. It is something that is standard. We do it for our productions. I would advise that people do it. Marketing is the reason why when people are saying, oh, you guys are gatekeepers, how is this film doing well? If you position something well, people will hate watch it. When they are hate watching it, they're putting money in your pocket, but they are hate watching. So they are abusing you online, but you have claimed your return on investment. So it's just based on what it is that you want. That's why you would see some not so good films have high numbers. It has been positioned as what to watch. If you position a film as one to watch, and what you think and that everybody should see, people will come out and see it. It's after seeing it that they can now abuse you, or they can say you tried, or they can say this is phenomenal. But they have to actually watch it, and they will not watch it if it is not positioned well. But I know I have dealt with this thing, and we still continue to deal with it. We don't have an infinite funds. We have a film coming out September 27th called Farmer's Bride, and I know what we have dealt with in just sort of trying to market it. It is expensive. It's like I get it because I'm also in the heat of it, but it's something that you also have to plan for and also look for a way to use brands to say, okay, how can I reach this? How can I achieve this, etc. And that's the work. That's the work of a filmmaker, you know. So yeah.
Great point. I like very much what you said about the possibility of a barter arrangement. You know, I do this for you, you do this for me. I think that really is something that people could explore a whole lot more. And still let me go back to the comment section here now, because there are a couple of questions here still on collaboration. And Tony says, I love your points for collaboration. And as a journalist, I have always been preaching on this. Are creative collaborations where different characters from different franchises meet possible? And what are the limitations given our kind of industry?
Oh, it's so possible. And it's been done in Hollywood like so many times, even with series where you see this series from Chicago Med will come into the fire. And I love that because I'm a big series junkie. So I love that. The only limitation for this, oh Lord, is where we have been from the beginning. Oh, I have my son that has come in. Please, just give me 1 second. Yes, baby. I don't know how he found me. Okay, can you sit down quietly? Shh. Sit down. Sorry about that. 1 second. I'm sorry about that.
No
okay.
trouble.
So what was the
I
question?
guess that's the additional challenge. How do you cope?
Look, it's I know we balance it all and we get help when we need to. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what was I don't remember.
You were talking about the franchises and collaboration?
Yes. Yes. What are the limitations given our kind of industry? The limitation is what we've been saying earlier on, is how people are just like, this is my story and I don't want to share. And people just don't want to work with each other. And dare I say, it's not only up and coming, it also happens high up there as well, where everyone just wants to do their own thing and no one wants to just sort of work together. Because at the end of the day, if you own your IP and another person owns their IP and we want to merge this together, there's no limitation. Most of the stories, most films are bootstrapped at the beginning. I know nowadays with the streamers coming in, they're commissioned etc. They're commissioned projects, but they're commissioned for existing IPs for most of the time, right? So in terms of limitation, there's no limitation. There's nothing stopping. I don't want to give example, but there's nothing stopping you except you just not wanting to dilute it, or maybe you not wanting to share the proceeds, or really actually you not seeing that there might be gains in you guys actually coming together. So there's absolutely nothing stopping it. They're not, unlike maybe internationally where networks own the IPs. For the most part, if you think about the biggest IPs that we have in Nigeria, maybe say for Wedding Party, that was a collaboration with 4 different companies, FilmOne, Ebony Life, Kuga, and Inkblot. Say for that one, most of the very, very prominent IPs are actually owned by one person or 2 people. So limitations are none. It's just people just, do I want to or don't I want to? Yeah.
On the back of that, I think we can take Joshua's question. He's asking, speaking on collaborations, how can one manage the altering or editing of an original idea based on suggestions from investors and/or other production personnel without losing sight of the initial message intended to share?
It's a skill. It's a skill that you learn. this picture I'm asking question. How do you manage altering or editing of an original idea based on suggestion? Because my Yoruba is bad, but this thing only comes to mind in Yoruba when you say if you cook back, or like you lose something and you can gain another one. Like,
Yes.
so a network says this person has to be a Black woman in the film, but you have seen that the only person that speaks to you in this is a white person in the film. Can you maybe reach in the middle of it? Can it be somebody that is mixed race? And this is I know that what you're talking about is probably bigger. Or can you lose that and maybe use another character to achieve what it is that you are using that you want to achieve with that story? There's always a way that you can there's always a way that you can win, number one. And usually this sort of things that they want when you want to alter something like that only starts is usually at the beginning of your career. You do get to a place where, because you have built a name for yourself, when they ask for something and you insist and say, oh, actually, no, I think this will go this way. Remember, they will remember, or you can remind them and say, remember that I did this way and this worked and I insisted on this. This is why I'm saying this. But sometimes, especially when you're starting and somebody is, again, I'm not saying that you should just let loose and let everybody take over and not have any control. I'm just saying that you want a particular production personnel on it, but they would rather someone else. If that person is competent enough, why is it such a bad thing, especially if you are going to still have your own creative supervision over that? It is just letting go of one thing for the greater thing. Can another character meet you where you want to meet, where you want somebody that speaks in tongues, but they're saying that woman cannot speak in tongues? Can another man say it in a different way? So it's a skill, but it is something that you really can lick within yourself. But sometimes we're so closed up, especially as creators. We've had this story, we dreamt it, it's almost part of you. So it's hard to, in fact, I have a good idea. In a film, this Farmer's Bride that we just finished, or rather that's about to release, the director wanted somebody to play a particular role. And 4 days to the shoot, that person was giving us such a hard time, and was picky about, very, very, like, I will not post on the film. I would only give X number of posts. You can't give me this room. You can't, like, it was so difficult. And I took a call and I said, 4 days to it, I'm like, we can't use this person. And it was a big problem. And I was like, we called somebody else. The person was in town and ended up taking that role. 4 days to going on set. He was upset. But it was just a thing of, the way I thought about it, I was like, this is a cinema film. You're going to give me problems down the line. Because unlike streamers where you just put the film and it does well, a cinema film requires you to be active. You actually have to sell the market. If not, nobody will know. And I mean, I'm not a celeb. My team were not celebs. We're just execs. We're just in the office. I actually need you people that are the celebs to do this work, and actually, like, I will give you the content. I'll give you whatever you need. I will pay you what is required for this role. But I need you to put your back into it. And if somebody's already if it's already difficult to manage this from pre-production or 4 days to go, then I'm already seeing the end that this is going to be a problem. So I took a call, and in that situation, I would have been the exec, as you put it, that would have changed your idea, because the director completely hated it. It was apparently, I wasn't on set, but I was apparently ranting, and it was such a big issue. And I'm like, well, there's nothing like this one. No, I'm not going to. I just cannot agree to it. It ended up working out very, very well in that situation. But at the end of the day, he just thought about it, that this is a story that he's trying to get out there. This is a story he's trying to tell. I wanted 5 people. You gave me 4. You took one person from me. I can live with it. So that's the way that I would answer that question, which is, sometimes you can either reach in the middle, or sometimes just live with it, especially when you've gotten wins and it's not affecting, like, the real essence of the story. Right. Yeah, that's how I'd answer that.
Yeah. In other words, we have to meet in the middle somewhere.
Yes, yes. Especially at the beginning,
situation,
when you're just starting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
especially at the beginning.
Okay. Well, we have another comment here, a question from Soji, who says, hi, Ladun, Soji from Russian Tap Studios here. considering the consumer behavior with regards to cinema tickets, where do you see as the valuable distribution platforms for indie filmmakers? Secondly, what's your advice to creators who want to do series, both seasonal and limited?
Valuable distribution platforms, I will still say cinemas. I'm a cinema girl, so cinema will always be valuable and the most valuable to me. But the obvious answer to that would definitely be YouTube. YouTube is taking a life of its own right now, and they're paying attention. Whether it's Meta that is flying people out or Google that is doing, so they're paying attention to what is going on there. And because it's also digital, a lot of the marketing for this will also be digital, whether it's Google Ads, etc. So for an indie filmmaker, I would say cinema. But if you want a quick win or just something to test the waters out, obviously YouTube is obviously there for for the taking. There's also African magic and like just what they're doing with Showmax as well. I'm liking like a lot of the content are very Nigerian and they're very authentic, and I like what they're doing there as well. So it's something that you can explore. And again, with the pitches, how do you get it? It's really with pitches. People are literally pitching and putting their best foot, out there, and that is happening. That's what I would say for indie filmmakers. What is your advice to creators who want to do series, both seasonal and limited? I would say do it. I'm a series girl, so I will always, for the TV networks, right? TV networks, whether it's satellite or Netflix, they like things that run longer because it means that you're on their platform for longer hours. So you will always have an upper leg when you have series. I would say if it's a comedy series, it should be shorter because 20 minutes to 25 minutes. If it's drama, 40, 45 minutes, depending on what it is. But I would say do it. But always have a plan in terms of your distribution platform. So how do you want to do? Is this a web series? Do you think that this is what would work well on the web? If so, why do you think it would work well? Because a lot of times we have these ideas that are crazy ideas. Well, we're creatives, right? So ideas most of the time are crazy, but is there an audience for it? And if you believe that there's an audience for it, why? So what is the research that you've done? If you believe that you want to do a web series that is talking about curtains, sorry, I just looked at my curtain now. Why do you think it would work? Why do you think it would work? Is there any existing evidence that series that talk about curtains would work? If there's none, and you feel like you'll be the breakout star, why? Just be clear to yourself, because these are questions that, again, if you are raising money, people are going to ask you. Yeah, they're going to say, what is so special about this one for you? What is the standard? So be clear about it. And this is work that a lot of people don't do beforehand. So you have this idea that's good. That's good. Is to do series. Love it. I'm your number one girl. But why do you think it would work? Where is your plan A for where you would put it? Your plan B, your plan C, and then let's work with that. So that would be my idea. That would be my advice. Just be clear. And this is for not just for series, this is just for anything that you want to do, really. Be clear on what your audience is. Be clear on why you think that this will work for your audience. And if there's no pre-existing, like anything that anyone that has done it before, then there's something maybe in our consumer behavior or something that has happened in the economy or something that would make you feel that this would work. And put it to paper and be clear on what it is. Write it such that anyone that sees it knows that you're not just doing it because you feel like doing it, because it's only people that have so much money that do things that they feel like doing. If you are doing it because you're trying to make a name for yourself or you're trying to feed your family, you better be clear as to why you're doing it, and make people believe that you know what you're doing.
I guess that's the importance of learning the skill of critical thinking, because it comes into play always. The what, the
Always.
why, the when, and so on. Well, we have
100%.
another question from Tony, who is asking, how can the distributors help in the marketing of products? Because some of the challenges I hear from filmmakers is that they choose to release on streaming platforms rather than work with the cinema because it's expensive to market.
It's expensive to market? That I know. I'm experiencing that right now. How can the distributors help? I guess in supporting what the marketing is. You choose to release a film on streaming platforms. The film releases on streaming platforms. It doesn't get any viewership at all because you haven't done any marketing. Do you think that they will buy a second film from you? They're not sharing their numbers, but they're looking at their numbers. you have no case as to why they will buy a different film from you. So marketing generally is expensive. Again, that is a world problem because marketing is marketing, right? It's expensive. It's the reason why I spoke about how we can do batters, or we can get batters from even a pre-production point of view. What can you get from? What can I give out? What can I give you in exchange for you to give me this, such that I don't have to spend that kind of money on it? Um, Cinema is expensive, it's stressful, but it also gives you a name. A lot of the filmmakers that we know now and that are getting their work commissioned, not just sales, selling to a streamer is licensing, but a lot of people that are getting their work commissioned, which means the streamers are giving them money to film, all got their stuff from cinemas. All.
Yeah.
So it gives you that name because you have done the work, you have done the dirty work. Because when you're doing a film in cinema, you will sell your market. You have no choice, you will sell it. So that gives you a name, especially when it now becomes successful. That now gives you a name where you can now ride on and say, I did this, it did this amount, I did the work. And even filmmakers will want to be, rather, even film actors would also want to be on your film, etc. So it's one of those things where, especially right now, that the streamer strategy, I'm sure is general knowledge, the streamer strategy has changed right now. They're not taking as many films as they were taking before. They're very, very selective about the kind of film that you made before. So you had a film the last time and it didn't make money. Just know that you have a 2% chance of now getting a deal. Why? Because everybody's strategy has sort of changed. But marketing generally is expensive. The only way distribution can help is maybe if you collaborate with them, maybe if they're partners in the film as well, or if you are able to make them believe in it. There are many films that I'm not, when we don't have equity in, but because I thought that the film would do well and I really, really believed in story, we've also helped from a funding marketing point of view where we will recoup from the cinema revenue, whatever it is that we spent in it. It's also advising. We also have a marketing team and we work with a lot of marketing agencies as well. All that can help in sort of getting, how can you spend maybe not so much, but so how do you spend 10 million but get 30 million in value? So it's stuff like that the distributors can also sort of help with. Yeah.
You mentioned some very valuable points there, because I think the notion many people have really is, if I'm going to the cinema, then I have to do marketing. If I'm going to the streaming platforms, I don't have to do so much. But that's a very good point indeed. If the thing doesn't work well, there wouldn't be a second part,
There
as
would be
it
a
were.
second.
So, and I do know that a friend of mine who's a filmmaker confirmed this idea of going to the cinema. He does well with streaming platforms, but then he did say that I need to do something in the cinema because it builds my reputation and it's better for me with the
100%.
streaming platforms because I have that. So that's a valuable point. Thank you. Well, Fawakemi says here, do you think there can be a content ceiling? A particular time that content is too much and demand is way less than supply, or demand is overwhelmed by supply and profitability is not guaranteed?
It's a general fact in life. So yes, there would be some times where supply is a lot and the demand is not, so like that's a general supply and demand conversation. Whether it's even on YouTube now, that a lot of people are sort of, I think it's even daily that people are coming out with different films, Yoruba films, English films, series, all of that. Or even in cinema, where I was at a session the other day and someone was saying, is it not enough with the epics? Like, we're tired of these epics. Like, but then I'm like, when we're doing comedy, people say you are tired of comedy. Then we move to drama. They're like, hey, it's not drama enough. It's not. But now I doing epic. People are about it says too much. So it's like there will always be that conversation where people are like, okay, this is too much. This is enough. But it's now left for us as film, because we also schedule films, right? We schedule films for cinema releases, and so do the streamer. So it's always, how can we tier it such that we don't have epic after epic after epic. So it's like, do we do three a year in cinema, or do we do or one a month, or like, so it's just planning and using the way the numbers are, how people reading those comments online and checking how people are reacting to them. But is it possible? Absolutely. But it will not, it will be hard. Like, my dream is that demand will exceed supply in terms of people demanding. That's my dream and that's what I want. But I don't think that that's happening anytime soon. I think that what we're dealing with right now is that there's a lot of supply that is exceeding demand. Why? Because Nigerians are always filming, and they were even filming when the streamers changed strategy. So what is happening is that right now we're currently in a place where the supply, oh Lord, the supply of films and fantastic films that all of us are looking for. Where are we going to put this one? Where is the space? Where are we going to put it? So yeah, right now we are experiencing a supply over demand, and when there's a supply over demand, that just generally affects your profitability, because what it means is that you have money hanging in that film that nobody's able to. It's not being monetized. It's just there. So if you took a loan, your payable days are getting more. So it's one of those things that we deal with, but it is why there's also a charge on us to continue to look for more distribution platforms where people are not saying all we have is 4 or all we have is 5, and people are saying there's a different number of ways. If you think that you're tired of waiting for the streamers, then maybe you give it to this person. If you think you're tired of doing to this person, then maybe we go to cinemas. So it's our charge is to look for different and diverse distribution platforms to ensure that these films are monetized. Yeah.
On the back of that, on the back of looking for more platforms, I heard you speak at the Nigerian International Film and Television Summit last month, and you mentioned that Nollywood cinemas are coming up as an option in the exhibition space. Can you talk to us about that? What exactly are Nollywood cinemas? And is that necessarily a cheaper option?
Yes. So what I meant by Nollywood cinemas is, so you know how I had said earlier that projectors, so which is what is called the DCP projector, etc.,
Right.
are like $20,000 to $30,000. They're actually significantly cheaper options that, let me go back a bit. So DCP projectors, they came about by this DCI community. This is DCI, Digital Cinema Initiative, and the top studios in the world, so Fox, Disney, Paramount, Universal, Warner Brothers, came together and said, we will do our DCPs. DCPs is almost like the CD you send to cinemas, in such a way that only specific projectors can play this, because this is the way we want to fight against piracy. They set the tone for that, and then a lot of all these indie filmmakers and even now Nollywood have now done it. So that's the standard for exhibition globally. But what exists is that there's some DCP solutions that are cheaper. You cannot play these Hollywood films on it, but because we make our own films here and we can put it in a particular format that also prevents piracy to an extent, you can show it on those projectors. So there are a lot of cinemas that are popping up that are not spending $20,000, $30,000 getting projectors. They're getting the DCP solutions that cost $1,000, $2,000. But what that means is that they can only show Nollywood films. We're happy with that, because again, we're growing our economy and growing our own ecosystem, as it may seem. So we will give them specifically Nollywood films, and that is all you can see because of the sort of projectors that they have in the cinemas. So that's what I meant by that. Your question, I don't remember your question.
No, that was it really. What are
Perfect.
the Nollywood cinemas? Yes.
Okay, yes. So that's what it is.
There has been a lot of talk about community cinemas and so on. Will this be a contribution towards that?
Yes, that's essentially a community cinema. That's essentially a community cinema where, so you're not expecting, like, so for instance, you know how in most modern day cinemas, you cannot see the air conditioning. It's all, what do you call the air conditionings that are like
the
central
air
ACs. Oh Lord,
yes,
there are central cooling and central cooling systems. But in the community cinemas, they can maybe have a split unit there, so it doesn't have to be as foreign or as put together as your central cooling system. So it is just enough for what you have: a screening room, you have some cooling, you have some fans, etc., and then you get to watch a film. So community cinema, you're not going to have the pizzazz of your more modern cinemas, but people will still be able to experience that cinema experience. It's going to be a big screen, the lights will be off, there'll be popcorn, there'll be drinks, etc. So those sort of cinemas and those sort of cinemas, the ones that we have right now, are like one screen cinemas where they have the slightly cheaper projectors, and they show Nollywood films. So that's what I would term as a community cinema. And for us, I feel like we will see a lot of growth when those ones keep popping up. And we're seeing a lot of them pop up. I had said on that same account that altogether there have been 11 cinemas that have opened up from January to June this year. And I know we're already talking to about 3 more that are going to open up over the next few weeks. So yeah, it's a big year from an exhibition point of view, and people are starting to open these 1 screen, 2 screen cinemas. Yeah.
I think that will be fantastic, because so far we see that we do not have, it's part of the distribution problem that we face, that we do not have a sufficient base locally to fully support our filmmakers. And
100%.
if we get more of these things, because look at the population figures we have. So in terms of numbers, really, because I think in many national cinemas or cinemas in other countries, their first support is their local base. And that is not quite our case yet. So much of the challenges we face when we're able to deal with these distribution problem, well, hopefully. So truly, I look forward to the positive steps that you mentioned as being something great. Let's take almost our last question from Anulika, who's asking, women in Nollywood, how would you describe women's roles and contributions, not actors, in the industry? In your case, as an industry leader, what gender-related challenges have you encountered, and what would you like to see changed? Many thanks for your responses.
Thanks for that. That's a good question. And look, I feel like Nollywood is one of those industries where presently the women are just like, they're leading, especially for the onset sort of things, whether it's production, like producers, um, um, directors, writers. So a lot of women are holding the pen on all those sort of roles. What would I like to see changed, and what has been my experience? What would I like to see changed is in the technical roles. I'd like to see more women in those technical roles. I know that there are just a few like that are, especially from a Nigerian point of view, that are both DOPs or gaffers who do the lights, etc. It would be nice to see that. I don't believe that there's no interest. Although I did see something online that in Ebony Life Creative Academy over the years, and I hope I'm saying this correctly, but that more women where like they wanted to be trained in like writing, producing, directing, but they weren't as interested in lighting or like the DOP side of it. I wonder if that is interest, or if it's just that they won't let me or something like that, because I don't want to believe that there are women that are not interested in that. That's what I would like to see, to just see more women so that you have more options in that. What has been my experience generally, and also what I would like to see change. My experience, to be fair, I haven't dealt with any like gender related challenges in my growth and my progression. Um, I always I always pride myself on being prepared for everything, in terms of if I'm going to come into like a board meeting, you best believe that I'm the best prepared for it. And it might also be because actually it's not might, it's also because I'm a woman, and I just don't want I don't want anybody to leave that place thinking that you know better than me because of your sex, because that's going to happen. Like, people are going to think it whether they say it or not, especially when you're in a room that there are more men than women. People are always like going to wonder, why is she here, or what qualifies her for this? Yeah, so I go the extra mile and make sure that I know my numbers, I know what I'm going to talk about, I understand the context, I have read the minutes, I understand the agenda, I know what my contribution will be, and you best be sure that my voice will be heard, but giving concrete contributions. Where I think that there needs to be more women playing in, it would be in perhaps what I do, which is from like an executive point of view, where you are sort of green lighting and making the decisions that they're not front office, but they're really the decisions that matter, like from the start of it. That's where I would like to see more women play, because I feel like it would really, really affect the sort of films that are being produced or the sort of stories that are being told. Women's opinions are so important, and you can always tell when a woman has taken charge. So I'm just going to leave that there. So
Okay. One last question from Omani, who says, given the Nollywood situation, how secure is a collaboration between a bigger brand and an SME without power plays? And if you can just take that with Folakemi's question, sorry, which is, what is the business in Nollywood remakes? Is it banking on safety in the known titles, or is there truly a demand from the audience based on nostalgia? Two last
good.
questions.
Sure. Given another say how secure is collaboration, it's secure. Everybody lawyers up. So you know what it is that you want, you know what it is that you don't want. And there are many, because it's very popular now, there are many IP lawyers and many in different different spectrums. So whether expensive, whether this, but you also need to know what it is that you want. I read every contract. So even if I have a personal lawyer and I have a work lawyer, I read every contract. There's nothing that I would circle and highlight the things that I don't understand and ask me, can you explain this to me? I don't understand what does this clause mean? So how secure would it be without power please? Everybody's bringing something to the table. If it's you with your story, they can't do that story without you. So the power plays will come to bear when it's time for money. When we're in contracting space, can we just agree what it is that we want? Who is going to take this? I've had people like maybe change things like I have to be the one that picks the director. That's all the person is saying for the story. Like you can pick everything as the people as the money makers, but the director, I will pick it. And he wants it written in the contract. So stuff like that. Agree what it is that you don't want to change. Be flexible to an extent, but not losing creativity because you are the creative one. The next question is, what is the business of Nollywood remakes? Everybody likes IP. We said IP so much in these things. So there's also nostalgia, but you are opening yourself up to criticism, which is something that as filmmakers and just film business people, you need to be open to, because a lot of times they're helpful. You can always pick something out of what they've said. But then there's definitely nostalgia because you've already built an audience for it. There's some certain films that if you're going to cinema, the fact that you're coming with this title is already 100 million first. You have not marketed. It's just like people are going to watch it. Like I said, it's either they're watching it because they like it or they're watching it because they want to hate watch it. So they are watching it. So that's my own. You are watching it. So there's a business in Nollywood remakes. There's a business in Nollywood stories that haven't been told before. Like I was telling somebody, I was recently introduced to Yoruba literature. Oh my God, so many stories that have not been told but have been written before I was born. So there's a business there. There's definitely a business there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ladun. Thank you so very much.
You're
I think we've
welcome.
enjoyed this. Do you have any last words, any last thing on your mind you would like to throw out there?
I would just say, just don't limit yourself in your thinking. A lot of times, a lot of critics just feel like some things are not for them. People will not agree. FilmOne will not talk to us. There's a cabal. There's all that thing is just is there. It's all there. You need to use we have so much access to so much tools. There's so many events so many film events happening every day. Put yourself out there. If people are not responding to an email, find out what events that are happening and fight for your rights to have the impact that you want to give. Don't be limiting. You just do yourself. Or your story is just with you. Meanwhile, other people with not so good stories are getting popular and making an impact. So don't limit yourself in your thinking, and let's get this.
Thank you so much, Ladun. Fantastic way to end. Thanks a lot. And thank you very much to our audience for the questions and your contribution in that way. And Ladun, this was fantastic. Well,
Thank you so
you have the
much.
compliment of Messi there.
I know. Thank you,
Thank you
Messi. I
so
just
much.
saw it. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, guys. Bye. Have a good
Okay.
weekend.
Thank you. You too. Enjoy the rest of your day. Okay.